There he is. So let's try to join up with Shawn. If this is going to work. Again, thanks everybody for joining. I'm just waiting for him to pop on here. And I think we're going to have some success. There he is.
Let's do that. Maybe I should move that camera out of the way.
Hey, Shawn, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Good, good. So I've been on here for about 5 minutes, just rambling on, waiting for you. So I'm glad we got you.
Yeah.
Nice hairdo. It's a beauty.
Yeah, just got to cut it. Just got to cut.
Every man's dream, Shawn. Every man's dream. In fact, you know what? I think we're just going to sit here and admire the hair.
I get more comments on my hair. I wish that I knew that this would be my superpower in adulthood. Then I might have had a date to prom in high school.
Awesome. So we've had quite a few people join. It's a big day here in Alberta. We've got a major election happening. Today's a voting day for our industry. We will get into this, but and I am going to do an introduction, but it's really good to have you on this call today because our industry here in Alberta has suffered, I would say, the last year to 2 years. It has gone down drastically, and so everyone is scraping to get jobs, and there's undercutting. There's all this stuff that's happening that's putting businesses out of business. So we'll talk about that, but I just want to do a quick introduction to everybody. So if I look off the screen here, my apologies. I've got it on my computer here because I can't just memorize this stuff, and then we'll get into the agenda. With over 20 years experience in the construction industry, previously owning a construction management consulting firm, GC company, and leaving his last job as an executive at a specialty contracting company, Shawn Van Dyke's mission is to change the way the world views the trades by helping us successfully grow and scale our construction business. Today, Shawn is a consultant, a business coach, and an amazing mentor. He's the author of The Paperwork Punch List and, as of late, the eye-opening and impactful, amazing book, Profit First for Contractors. Shawn is in love with what he does, traveling all over North America as a keynote speaker, helping thousands of contractors get through the agony of the first 5 years of business. We've all been there. We are lucky to have 1 hour of his time and would love to welcome Mr. Van Dyke to the IG Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you flying out somewhere today?
Yeah, I'm getting on a plane in a couple of hours. I'm going to Des Moines, Iowa, for the Iowa Skilled Trade Build My Future event. So I'm going to get to speak to, I think it's about 2,000 plus high school students, which is exciting and intimidating at the same time because, I'm more than twice their age now. So connecting with the audience as a speaker, connecting with the audience is very important. And all of this gray hair may look nice for, us old folks, but for high schoolers, I'm just an old guy, so.
Well, thank you so much for accommodating. I know you have a busy schedule. I do want to get right into some of the topics here, just because you have so much value to add. So the first thing I want to talk about is how you and I met and why I reached out to you. It's just over a year, I would say, is when I was considering hiring what in my mind was a coach. And to me, I was, doing the old Google search, and there are business coaches out there, and they are very valuable for what they do. But I stumbled upon, I think through social media, you were heavy on social media, you were giving tons of value, free content, and I was like, what, who is this guy? And learned that you were a coach, but you had experience in construction. And to me, that was like a win-win. So we can talk the same language, and you would understand, and then you would be able to help our business or any business in this industry excel. So I reached out and we started to work together. And the one thing I noticed was you weren't one of these fluffy coaches that was like, you know what I'm talking about. I think people understand. You were like, listen, here it is. This is what you need to consider. I can only guide you, but you need to pay attention to these things. So things like numbers, things like sales, we dabbled in some social media stuff. There's all this stuff that you brought to the table, and I'm like, holy crap. And some of the people on this call, I've been talking about you for years. They've actually been coming to me and saying, tell me more about Shawn and the value he adds, and hence why I'm doing this call. I wanted my peers in Alberta and here, and also to your audience, to know that you're not just a business coach. You add tons of value, and as the years go on, you continue to grow and add more and more and more, because things change in our industry. So, Gina and I would like to thank you for the service you've given us, and I wanted to give back to you and to my peers and say, listen, here's Shawn. Don't ask me anymore. let's get him on. Let's talk about it. And so let's do that. Let's talk about your coaching business and what it is, the value you add to your clients. And I think there are different forms of coaching you can do for companies as well. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, the whole coaching business was something new to me as well when I started, and I've been doing it just about 3 years now, going into my third year. Yeah. And I really, I've said this on other podcasts and other places too, was, I kind of had this epiphany moment, and I was in my bathroom, standing there brushing my teeth, and just, I don't know why it popped into my head, but I realized, and this is several years ago, about 3 years ago, I realized that it had been 19 to 20 years since I graduated college. And that I was just, having this moment. I was almost, I was in my 40s. I said, well, wait a minute. I've been doing nothing but work in and around the construction industry for my own businesses. And at the time, I was the COO of a large trim and millwork company here in Knoxville. I had a real estate company before that and had been an engineer and done a bunch of different things. And I never really thought of myself as an expert until that moment. I said, well, wait a minute, 20 years, I probably know a thing or two about construction. And then I thought about, I was like, I would get a lot of questions from other construction business owners, other trade contractors, and people that I just was interacting with. And they were always asking me, well, what do you do about your contract? Or what do you do about change orders? Or how is it that you said that you charge, your customers for, how do you do all that? So I was helping my friends out and my other colleagues, and I realized that all of that was just kind of basic stuff to me because I'd been doing it so long. Right. And I realized that made me an expert. Here's my 2 criteria for being an expert. If somebody calls you and asks you a question about construction, if you A, know the answer, or B, you know who to call to get the answer, that's it. That's all you need to be an expert. And when I realized that I was only 1 or 2 phone calls away from answering any question that I didn't know as it related to running the construction business, that gave me the confidence to say, okay, I think that I can teach this. I can teach what I know to other contractors, other construction business owners. But I also said, that's all I know. All I know is construction. Yeah. I'm not going to try to be a lifestyle coach or a fluffy coach, as you said. Now, there's nothing wrong with those. I've, in fact, hired a leadership. I have a leadership coach. I had to have a business coach. I have a writing coach, every different aspect of my life. And if people need a life coach, then there's some really, really great ones out there. But for me, I said, I can be a construction business coach. And I didn't know anything about that going into it. And as I started talking to people and getting some clients and working with them and interviewing other people, something interesting came up is that some potential clients would say, I have hired a coach before. And I said, well, how did that work out? And they said, because they weren't in construction, sure, they offered them some very general stuff and like, hey, spend less money than you bring in, and that's how you make a profit. And they were like, okay, well, how do I do that, or what do I cut back on? They're like, they couldn't offer any help specifically to a construction company, and that's what I realized was my advantage was that niche market of just construction business owners. Yeah. And because I can walk onto your job site, into your shop, and meet with your employees and speak the language and know, I've worked around carpenters. I've worked around, I've employed, foremen and superintendents. And so that's the language that I knew. And I didn't realize it at the time, that level of value. But then I started selling that, saying, you're right. If you're a tech startup, I have no idea how to help you. I cannot be your business coach. But if you're in the construction business, if you buy some stuff, some materials, and you build something with it with your hands or with a group of people, I know how that business model works. I know how that, how those operations work, and I know how the people think and feel when they're working in that operation. I can help there because it's all I've ever done. Outside of that, like, I am not the guy to hire if you want to learn how to write a book. Sure, I've done one, but I'm not an expert at writing a book. I feel like, and it's okay for me to say I'm an expert at the construction industry, because that's all I've done. That's not arrogance. That's not pride. I just looked back over the 20 years and said, I just haven't done anything else.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's why I think we related really well, and some of your other clients. So let's level set here. So say I'm a general contractor, or I'm a plumber, electrician, or whatever. I run a business and I just want to get to the kind of the next level. What is the process of contacting you or engaging with you? And then what's your criteria? Because I know I had to fill out a form and you were selective on kind of who you work with. So what are you looking for in in a client?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm looking for is that you have to be experiencing large enough pain. Unfortunately, like, if you're not struggling with certain things, then you're probably not motivated enough to do the work that we need to do to get you to the next level. So one thing that I'm always, and it's the same thing that I teach my clients when we're working on their marketing strategy as well, is to identify your ideal customer's pain. So someone that fills out the form, I ask them, hey, what's your biggest pain? And if they're saying, well, I want to scale my $20 million business to $50 million, well, that's probably not me, because I'm not operating at that level, But for most people, it's just, what's their pain, and what kind of results are they looking to get, and in what kind of time frame? And there's a question that I ask on a lot of my surveys. I have people filled out after they've gone through all of this stuff, and I just say it's not. There's no real tactic behind it, just other than for me to understand. I say, how urgent is this to you? Is it very urgent, somewhat urgent, or I'm ready to invest in my company? And frankly, people that say it's somewhat urgent, then I just point them to either consulting or some more free content or some of my other resources. Because if you're self-identifying that it's somewhat urgent, then I just know you're not ready yet. And I've had people that have responded to that, pointed them to some more resources. They came back a year later and said, nothing has changed. Now it's urgent. Now I'm ready to hire you. I'm ready. I need to get to the next level. So that's really what I'm looking for. And I've got clients that are one-man shops, and it's surprising. I have a one-man shop that's trying to grow his business, that's just trying to get out of that startup phase. And I've got other companies that have 20 employees. Yeah. And it's been really surprising, because I'll even look at, one or two man shop saying, wow, they're hurting for cash. They don't have a lot of money, but they come up with the money. They're willing to invest in some $5 million company that has a couple of partners. It's always one partner that's like, we need change. And it's the other two partners saying, no, why would we do anything different? Totally. They're a harder sell. Even though they've got more money, they've got more cash flow. Sometimes the smaller construction company, they're some of the best clients, because they got to get results and they need them now.
Absolutely. So on that point, you touched on two things. We're going to talk about how you can cater to larger companies and some different ways you're doing that through the coaching and teamwork. But what would you say the top 3 to 5 main hurt points, or points that when people engage you, they're like, this is the area we need help, or we're dying here. I know numbers. I know numbers is one of them. What else?
Yeah, so numbers, they just don't know how to charge enough to make a profit. They think that they're charging right at the top of what, because they hear from their clients, and I say that their uneducated clients say, oh, you're pretty expensive, or you're too high, and they think, okay, well, maybe that person's right, and they're not, because when they can consider all the factors, they're just not charging enough to make a profit. So numbers is always the first thing, and with that comes with other systems, estimating systems. So I always kind of say it's really the three parts is the paperwork. So that's the numbers, the systems, the estimating, the time tracking, and the ability to predict your future. Meaning watching the numbers and the systems in your business produce data, and then how to interpret that data. So that's number one, is always kind of the paperwork and the systems. Once you get that in place, it's just the data. It mainly is just math. Once you learn the math of your business, then you're going to grow. And then when you're going to grow, you're usually going to do that through people. So people is the next problem. How do I hire? Or I have hired, I've got these people and they're not producing what I need them to produce. Now that we have the systems tracking the data, we realize, oh, we've kind of got this people problem. So we work on that aspect of it. And with the people issue, or the people problem, right now it's hiring, finding good qualified people. That's a problem for everybody throughout the industry. Yeah. But it really comes down to communication. So we're working on the communication systems within the business. So that's the second problem, is the people problem. Paperwork first, then the people, and then finally, once you've got your paperwork problem solved, the people problem you never really solve. You never move on from people. You're always developing your people, but you can get some systems in place for that. Then comes the planning, meaning now we've got a business owner that is much more acting or participating as an owner. They're off the tools. They're thinking about developing people. They're thinking about developing systems, and they're putting marketing in place to keep this actual business going, so they don't have to do all of the work in the business. So I say the third part is then planning. Okay, we have to plan for success, and I think that's where a lot of contractors and construction business owners might stop. They don't think about that because they don't have the time. Is, what if this thing's successful? What if you attract really good people? What if your marketing works and people want to pay your price? What are you going to do when this thing really takes off? And how are you going to leverage that? Because you could grow too fast. And so that's really the three parts, is the paperwork, the people, and the planning. And I've got, my coaching is kind of designed around that. Yeah, Smaller companies, we're focusing mainly on paperwork and getting into people a little bit, and that's what they need to get them to that next level. But I do have some programs where I work with larger companies where we're jumping in at the people, the planning part.
Yeah, so let's go on to that. So and I'm seeing people popping on here, different companies that I know of here locally that do have, the size is, we'll say 5 to 15 people, and they're in the growth phase or whatever, and there's always that, when you're jumping from, 1 to 2 to 5 or 10, there's all these other things that come into play. There's IT, there's, you can't just do that. But how do you work with larger groups where, maybe they all can't hop on a call or whatever? Is there some sort of a video thing you do or anything for a larger group?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm all video all the time. So I record everything. So I use Zoom for all my coaching calls, whether it's one person. I've even done training with 10 people sitting in a shop. They project my big head up on the wall there in the shop, and I've done training virtually for them. We've done a half-day training sort of thing like that. So, but usually, once you get above 10 employees, then the owner usually is no longer in the field, and they probably have some other management in place. So we just talk about, in my meeting with the owner, which is most times a meeting with the owner, and then through the coaching program, then I might have individual meetings with their management, but it's mainly with the owners. And So the coaching for larger companies is just a longer term. So typically for somebody that has 15 people or so, we're probably starting out minimum 6 months. And most of those types of clients, we go to a year. And for my 6-month clients, part of that coaching program is that they can fly me out 2 days on site. And this is usually around month 4, month 5, towards the end of that initial 6 months, because we got to build some momentum up. One thing that I found out is that if I go out too early and meet with the client's team and not enough time has expired, the employees and the management, they haven't seen enough change to really buy into it. So Agreed. It sounds kind of weird to talk about it like in the third person or whatever, but if your employees aren't seeing you implement new things and seeing results from that and hearing about this coach or Shawn's doing this or we're implementing that and we're practicing scheduling meetings and all this other kind of stuff, if I just pop out there and just say, okay, here's all this information that you need to know, then it just hits them like a fire hose. They can't absorb it because they just the context isn't there. The intent is there. I've always said if your people don't understand, they won't be able to execute on your content if they don't understand the intent. So totally. My longer term clients say, let's get the flywheel going. We're going to start slow and then it's going to ramp up. And then somewhere 6 months or so, then I'll come out and spend a day and a half, 2 days. And I custom design whatever, because every business is a little bit different. And we design usually an executive and manager training day, and then we do an employee training day. And I have been in a room full of 10 to 15 employees from every level within an organization, and I show them how to run a construction business. I show them how we make money, and owners are a little bit nervous sometimes. They're like, are we going to expose the numbers? And I'm like, yes, you want to show them how their decisions every day make you money and how it makes money for them as well. If the company grows, then they can grow as well. So that's usually what, for larger companies, how the programs work is, 6 months to a year. But now I've started, because I get so many requests, I've started doing these live events where I'm going to travel around and do, kind of take this show on the road sort of thing and do my own events. I'm doing one in Denver next month. And hoping to, so people, for whatever reason they can't do a coaching program and they're not ready for that, is that they could send the owner or they could send their managers to these live events. And right now they're 1-day events, but we'll grow those to 2 days. I'll bring in some other leaders to speak on some other business topics. But that's how I'm trying to serve the larger companies.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like I said, you're constantly evolving your business. You're always analyzing, movement and how to accommodate all of us. So I think that's great. I think when we met, you were talking about those things, but now they're actually being implemented, which is cool and awesome to see. So one common question I know you always get, I ask the same thing, and I'm just going to put you on the spot, is someone hires you and they're going to say, well, what's the ROI, right? Have you made millions for all your clients? Like, that's kind of how we think. We're like, well, we're going to pay you this much money. How do I know that? How do you answer that question?
Yeah, I say that ROI is directly proportional to the effort that you put in. And so many of my clients have made their money back very quickly, and then they stopped right there. And so they said, yeah, paid Shawn some money. I got some good information, but I didn't scale my business. I didn't grow it. Some clients they never showed up, meaning they didn't do the work. They paid for the time. They got the program, and there's various pieces of parts of the program, and they just don't show up. It's the same thing as saying, all right, well, you hire a personal trainer, and he's waiting there at the gym for you, and you're laying in bed or you decided to eat that entire pizza last night. It's going to be really hard for you to get those six-pack abs, because that's what I tell people. I am not your bookkeeper. I am not your estimator. I'm not your designer, and I'm not your superintendent, but I can give you the information. And so really say, well, what's the ROI? Saying, well, let's design a program. Let's take a look at it. And I want to get you at least 10X. So if you were to pay me $10,000, I want to make you $100,000, or I want to show you how to make $100,000. And everybody is a little bit different. Sometimes that 10x comes over a year. Some people it comes in 3 months because, and this is the odd thing, because their business, they're guessing at so much of their business. And so when they stop guessing and they can immediately start implementing some of the things, then the money just starts to come. So I'll use this as an example. So everybody's a little bit different, but I have one client, and when we started working together, he had a part-time job as a firefighter. And so which I thought was very smart, he focused on exterior work, meaning because of his schedule at being a firefighter, he couldn't have your kitchen torn up and then saying, hey, I'm on, 4 days straight at the firehouse. And, and so that became a stressor for him. So he just focused on the outside of the house. And when we started talking, I said, well, how much money would it take for you to be able to quit that job and just do this full time? And he put a number out there, and I looked at it and I thought, dude, you're making this much part-time. If you were to quit your job, you'll be there within 6 months or whatever. And sure enough, within 11, I think under a year of us working together, I thought he was going to call me. He texted me and said, oh, by the way, I quit my job today. And I texted back and I said, did you check with your wife? And she was like, he said, she couldn't be more thrilled. Now he is finishing up his first custom home. This is 2 years later, finishing up his first custom home, and has a couple more. And he's looking to, he'll be over $1 million in 2019. So from a few $100,000 to over $1 million in just under 2 years. But so the ROI is there, but it's directly proportional to what you put into it.
100%. Like you said, anything in life. Perfect. So I want to get back to a micro level and then a macro level of the economy. So micro level here in Alberta, we're heavily oil and gas based industry province. And so things have been going south really quick. And I'm talking I would probably say the crash of 08, 09 in the States, Detroit and all these places, really, it's heading in that direction. It's some are doing well, but there's a lot that are just scrambling. And so what's happening is I've got individual trades, plumbers, electricians, and contractors bidding on jobs, good companies, and they're going in there, they're selling value and doing all of that. And it's not enough. People don't care about the value. They want the lowest price. And guys are just cash flowing their businesses, or don't even know where they are as far as what they're making. They're just trying to operate. And so cash is coming in, cash is going out. And we'll talk about your book in a second here. But do you have any advice for those companies that are trying to do what you've been putting out, and that is sell your value, talking about transparency and and having responsibility around that, and dealing with clients that are abusing, and I would say this, and I'm going to put this out there, they are abusing and disrespecting our trade in the industry here because they feel like they can do this now. Listen, if you don't take this job for nothing, you're not going to have a job, and I've got 10 other people I can call right now that can do it for. How do you work within that?
Yeah, I just say if it's that bad and those are the only clients, then yeah, things are going to be really tough. I would just say you don't have to go and work your ass off to go out of business. Just sit at home for 6 months, enjoy your family, and then go out and get another job. If that's the kind of people that are out there that are going to say you have to basically do this for free, you're going to be out of business anyway. So just don't work for them. Enjoy your life, and then go get another job. Yeah. Let people in that kind of environment. Then let everybody else do that, and you just focus on enjoying life, because life is just way too short. But it's never really that bad, right? Because whenever there's a down economy, and it could be for certain things, the people that win around that. Rich people, it's not going to hurt them. In fact, rich people, wealthy people, people that have money, when the economy starts to go down, there's a certain number of those people that start spending money because they get really good deals.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I understand they want a really good deal on their contractor too, but if you know your numbers, then yeah, you're going to have to make some adjustments. You can always adjust your price. You just don't have to go down to the point where you're giving it away for free. And that's why I think that there's a correction. I'm not going to say a recession because I'm not a economist, and I don't know I don't know how to predict these things. But there certainly is going to be a correction even here in the States. And the contractors and the construction business owners that are going to do well and ride that out are going to be the ones that have spent time on developing relationships more than anybody else. Being the one person that can be trusted when all of these other guys and gals are dropping their prices and running around like crazy, it's going to be the people that you can call up on the phone, or they're going to call you saying, I've got a great deal. I'm going to buy this apartment complex because these people are going bankrupt, but it needs to be renovated. I'm going to grab some lots. I'm going to grab some houses before everything, bottoms out. And I want to get you in here. Now give me your best price. And you're going to be able to run your numbers and say, if we don't do this for a reduced price, we're going to have to eliminate some overhead. We're going to have to do some other things. Am I still there?
Yeah, you're there.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna have to do some other things. So yeah, we're gonna drop our price lower than it's ever been in the past 2 years, but we're not gonna go out of business because this is new business, and it's gonna be based on relationships. And so that's why right now, if you're not making a killing, right, and I'm thinking of like in the States,
okay,
if you're not making a profit right now, you sure as heck aren't gonna make a profit when there's this correction or whatever.
Sure.
If you want to turn that around, start building relationships. And it's not selling, it's building relationships with people. They need to know that you're there. They need to know that you can be trusted and that you're not going anywhere, and you just want to be the first person that they call when they get an opportunity.
And that's a really good point. So I started with another fella, the whole social media, helping the build industry with their social media, content capture and deployment. And I tell every one of our clients that there's a lot of pictures out there. There's a lot of pictures of kitchens and cabinets. But if you're not selling any type of value or subject matter expert, giving back as the expert in your industry, you will not pull people in. Selling right now and going at people, especially in our economy, they're like this. But if you are someone that is offering, even through your text or how you're positioning yourself on social media, you're offering value and that you know what you're talking about, you are the trusted brand, that all goes, it's huge. It's huge. And I think that's one area that people can win in a down market is be the one that people come to ask the question about that specific trade or that specific build or whatever the case, right? And expose your process. Tell them how you do things. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? That is exactly right. But here's what I would say in a little tweak to that is expose your process so that it educates them and it's a benefit to them. You don't want to show your process to show how awesome you are. Exactly. You want to show the process to how it helps them out. And the best thing you can do is that the value or that content is so good that they could take that information and go do it themselves. Right.
But here's what you want to do, and this is why it's so important to show the detail and the value and walk them through it step by step. You're not going to have to get into the complicated, intellectual property type of stuff, because again, back to what we talked about before, it's just the basics, right? You need to offer them the basics. But when you tell them and show them, give them the information to build their own house, give them every little bit. And what it will do to them mentally is saying, I had no idea it was that complicated. Yeah. Why would I want to do it myself? Yeah. I'm just going to call this person that I thought I could do it myself. And I started doing some stuff myself, right? I did my own designs based on your content. I did some planning based on, but then I realized I've got a life to live. I've got another job. And when it comes down to it, well, this is the person I'm going to call because they obviously know what they're going to talk about.
Right.
And when that person comes to you, they're still going to be, hearing a couple of those things that uneducated people have said, like, hey, you got to get 3 numbers, you got to get multiple bids. It's in a down economy. You can really chase that number down. But they've seen you as an expert. They come talk to you and they say, I'm going to get some other bids. You'd be like, hey, that's not a problem for us. Here's what you're going to run into. A, B, C, and D. These things will happen. Yeah. We're not going to participate in bidding, but doesn't sound like it's a great project for us. I'm really concerned for you that it's going to take you down this road, especially in this economy. People are just going to drop their prices and they're not going to be able to serve you. But because you're trusted already, they're going to hear that and go, okay, yeah, you're probably right. Like, you are the expert. I felt like I had to say that because everybody else, but you have to have that level of confidence and stand in front of a client and know your business and just say, it's not a good fit for us. If you want to do the process that we've educated you on through our marketing, through our content, whatever, then this will be great. But if you don't want to get involved with that, then you need to find somebody else. I call it the power of walking away. And they'll say, well, I thought contractors were supposed to be desperate. I thought they were supposed to just drop their price. And man, that guy seemed like he knew what he was talking about. We should probably just hire him and get on with our lives and go make some money to buy or pay for this contractor to what now? But then you got to deliver. You got to deliver 100%. On that experience. If your content is great and emotional and pretty, your whole process you better spend 10 times the amount putting into your process as you do your content.
100%. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, you nailed it.
You got a flashy video or whatever. When you deliver that email and it's got the proposal or whatever, there better not be one spelling mistake.
Right.
There better not be one missed number.
Right.
Because it doesn't fit with the content, and people are going to be like, oh, it's all flashy, and then you fall into that category of everybody else that's just, oh, content with no substance.
I always say the consistency from that first call and everything throughout has to be there, or else. And the thing is we talk about the market not being educated, but there's points throughout a process where they're like, something's not right here. Like, they've got intuition. You said this on the call, and I'm seeing all these wicked pictures that photographers have taken. But as we're going through this process, that's not really gelling with everything else that I'm seeing. What's going on here, right? And it's apparent. It's apparent. It jumps out. Like,
you're absolutely right. People buy based on emotion, and part of that emotion is people's intuition. The ignorance that I'm talking about is they don't understand how fast demo goes. They don't understand that a professional painter it's $5,000 to paint this job, and your cousin's best friend said he could do it for $500. Like, that's the ignorance I'm talking about. But the intuition, you're absolutely right. But that's what you want to evoke to sell and to establish that relationship. Is people are not. I said this in Vegas at IBS this year. People do not care about you, your process, your product, or your service first. They care about themselves first. And when you can evoke an emotion that speaks directly to them, then they will invite you to tell them more. And that's where you can start your sales, your sales process.
Absolutely.
But you're right, because they are very intuitive, and they'll know when something is, they see a nice flashy video, and then they'll look for something else, and they'll realize, oh, that's not who that company is.
Totally. So guys, everyone that's on the call right now, I just wanted to tell you, this example of Shawn and I, or us talking today, is an example of how a lot of our coaching calls have gone in the past. There's topics to be discussed, and Shawn, as you're seeing him right now, is delivering and delivering and delivering. And he also delivers outside of the calls sometimes, if it's a quick email or whatever. He delivers. So this is a very good example of what you'll be getting. But the next thing I want to talk about, because we have about 20 minutes here, is this puppy right here.
There we go.
Hey, look at this. Wonderful book.
Man, handsome guy.
I didn't even know I was on the back. I was reading it and I looked in the back and then I texted you and I'm like, yo, you didn't tell me I was on the back of this thing.
Well, it's just like with the clients, you under promise and over deliver. So
It was awesome. So this book, I'd like you to talk a little bit about how it spawned and your partnerships with Mike and all of that. But this book, guys, if you are going to leave this call with anything, and I'm being serious, I do read a lot of books, not as much as Shawn, but it is no joke. In fact, it's very scary in a good way. The first few chapters, I was like, holy crap. Like, the way we think about this industry and the way we think about our numbers is backwards. And you really lay it out in this book. It's an easy read, but when it gets into the numbers and stuff, it gets technical. And I appreciate you did that. Again, there's no fluff in this book. Shawn lays it out. And if, in my opinion, if you are not modeling your business, any type of business, when in the construction world, after this book, you are probably going to be in trouble, or you've maybe figured out another way and you've been in business for 10 years and you're profitable and great. But get this book, get the audio book, or the book itself, and let's talk about how this spawned, Shawn, and what, I mean, to write a book is insane. So there was a hurt out there, and you decided to get this done.
Yeah. So I tell the story in the book. I was about a year or so into my coaching, and I read or listen to a lot of books, and came across one of Mike's books, The Pumpkin Plan. I had seen The Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, read that years ago, and then read The Pumpkin Plan, which is just awesome book. So I just started, what I do is I just keep going through people's library of stuff, and came across Profit First. And when I read it, I was about halfway through it, and I said, oh, this is exactly what I teach my clients on how to look at the numbers, but Mike has it packaged better and marketed better, and his system's a little bit more streamlined. I didn't, and so I turned to my wife and I just said, this is what I teach my clients. And then, so I just dove deeper, as I usually do. See, people ask me, oh, I've never hired a business coach. Business coaches are suckers for other coaches. So I went and said, okay, how can I get coaching from Profit First or Profit First professionals? I've had, probably half a dozen to a dozen coaches now in different aspects about built this business. So that's just kind of my mentality. It's like, okay, what happens if I throw some money at this guy? Because the last business coach I threw some money at, I created this business. And so contacted Mike's organization and went through his certification program. And I was about halfway through that. And I get assigned my own personal coach. And we're talking about how I can market and sell Profit First to my clients. And I explained, I was like, well, I do Profit First with my clients within my coaching program. I don't really separate it out because I can tell them the numbers real quick, but we got to change the way that they do the business. And I said, and so in this conversation with my Profit First coach, I said, in fact, here's a couple of things I would do differently. Mike should write a book for contractors and change it up this way so that they could understand it. And my coach, he said, well, why don't you write the book? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, yeah, Michael will sell you, a license or whatever, and you can write your own book, Profit First for Contractors. And I was like, is that how books get written? I didn't know, And 1 week later, I was on a video call with Mike. We worked out the details, got the contract put together, laid out the schedule, and then he said, "Okay, man, let's get it published by this date." And I was like, I went to my wife and I said, "Honey, I think I'm writing a book." And by this point in my life, my wife just rolls her eyes at most things. She's like, yeah, okay, sure. It's we got to feed the kids or whatever. So that's really how the process came up for the book. And I still to this day people will say, well, how do I grow my business? How do I do this next thing? First thing, ask. Call somebody and just ask them. You'll never know what you can get. And had I not asked, like, oh, can I write this book? it wouldn't have been done because somebody might say no, but what if somebody says yes? So then I just buckled down, and Mike was my coach in helping me write the book. As far as he just said, when it's approaching the numbers, and you're right, the middle of the book, it's numbers. It gets pretty technical, and you got to jump in and plug in some stuff. And I think even in the audio book, I think at one point I'm like, listen, just go get the book and read this. You don't want to hear me read it or whatever. It's just spreadsheet stuff, right?
Yeah.
But Mike was like, tell stories, pull people through the book with stories. And when that was the best part of writing the book for me. That's why I didn't think it was very hard. I mean, it took a lot of time, but I just got to sit back and think of stories. And I reached out to clients like you and other people, and I said, hey, tell me some stories. As we worked through these different aspects, and I realized I've just got these really transformational stories, not because of me, but because of the efforts and the things that my clients did. And I got to tell their stories in the book. And when I kind of got it all laid out, I was like, this is good. This is good because it's not me. Sure, there's some stuff about me in there, but it's client stories and transformations making each one. And I try to add some humor, and I try to make it very conversational. I'm sure my high school English teacher would hate the book because of all of the grammatical type of errors. But Mike coached me, said, you want to write it so that when you read it out loud, it sounds like a conversation.
Yeah, you achieved that.
And so, but like everything else, we had worked together. It's like, break things down. And I said, 30 days to write the book. And people say, that's ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, but if you get it done in 30 days, and Mike was the same way. He's like, I'm not giving you any extra time on this, because if I give you extra time, you'll take that time. And so what I did was I hired a coach, a writing coach, 30 days to outline it, 30 days to write it, and then 30 days to revise and edit. And I hired a copywriter and brought a web person in, just like I can do all this stuff, but it would never get done.
Yeah.
And at the end of 30 days, so June 1st, I started.
I remember, yeah.
June 30th, I had 55,000 words because I said, I need 1,000 words per day. Mike said the book needs to end up with 25 to 30,000 words. And I had 55,000 words at the end of 30 days. And it was trash. I mean, it was horrible. But now we could start cutting. And that's what the copywriter and worked with my team to do. And people say, well, man, you really cranked out the book. I was like, yeah, I had to, because I didn't want to still be writing it now, and
totally.
And so that's kind of how the book came about. And
lots of bullet coffees, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Lots of coffee.
So I know we put it out there on social for questions. Did any questions come into you?
No, I didn't get any questions.
You didn't get any. I didn't either. So let me see. I'm just scrolling here to see. Okay, so I got one from Angel Contracting, I believe. I generated a proposal, got paid for it, and then decided to go with someone cheaper. So got paid for their time. Let's talk about this quickly. Got paid for their time because I do believe in this, and I implemented it after we started working together. And so the person got paid for it, educated them, but they still went with the other person.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know that's one of my clients, Steve. He's actually going to join me out in Colorado, out in Denver next month, and that was part of that process. I said, man, you got to do this. You can't be running around giving away free work. And we worked on that. We just worked on that confidence, and it was great getting those messages and texts from him saying, I just sold my first one, and then sold another one, and then sometimes people walk away because they don't know, they think they know what their budget is, but when they pay you to plan the whole thing out and you can build that budget, then they can say, for whatever reason, we don't have the money, we don't like working with you. That could happen. I had that when I had my construction company, and people would say, thank you for the proposal, thank you for planning it all out. We don't want to work with you. We think that we can find somebody better. No problem. Here's your package. I had my money and my time was covered. Absolutely. The funny thing is I went back to that particular client a year later to do an entire new roof. And I said, hey, how'd the bathroom and the kitchen project work out for you? And they just said, we should have gone with you. That's why I was back there doing work. So sometimes people are going to pay us and they're going to go another direction, and that's okay. That's okay.
Absolutely.
Most of the time, and here's the big thing that people have to understand, and contractors, when they charge for their proposals, you don't charge for an estimate. I can give you an estimate right now over the phone, but when I do work, I'm going to get paid. When people pay you before you've done any work for them, it means they trust you.
Correct. That's
the point of it. And people say, well, I only charged $1,000, but I put 100 hours into it or whatever. It's only $10. Don't worry about making the profit. Don't look at it that way. It's about establishing trust, because when they trust you,
totally,
and you need to upsell them on a change order or something else, they're going to pay it. And It's just going to make the whole process go smoother. Awesome. And you get your time back.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. And I apologize. It's angle contracting. I'm trying to read these things, and I'm just, so the Naughty Log loves the name. What are your thoughts on using a loan to expand when you have cash in the bank?
I wouldn't do it. I mean, I'm a no debt guy. Now here's the difference, and I talk about that in my book a little bit. There's a difference between incurring debt and financing something. Financing, and again, but people will swap those terms around. If you have to know and have a history of generating profits, when you have a history of generating profits and you know the things that lead to profitability, and we're not guessing at that, then, like, I've had some clients that said, we need to spend $250,000 on a CNC machine to take our shop to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to take the profits, we're going to take a profitable business, and we're going to put those profits at risk to invest. And one of the ways that we're going to do that is by taking that and investing in some financing, and we'll pay it back over a very short period of time. That is, in my book, that's fine, because you're calculating risk and you have a proven history of generating profits. Most contractors, or a lot of contractors, say, well, I'm not profitable yet, but if I get another truck, if I get another piece of equipment, if I go out and borrow all this money, then it will generate that for me. And I say, for me, I say, nope, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
Generate the profits first. Get a system in place for generating profits, and then you can either self-finance, or you're mitigating some of that risk to say, you know what, this thing didn't work out, sell the piece of equipment, pay off the loan, whatever, with the cash that we have available. Whew, good, I'm glad I didn't go 10 years in the hole trying to dig out of that really bad decision. And we all make bad decisions, we all make mistakes, but having a system, having a business that generates profits, it gives us so much more freedom. And you can actually take on, you can evaluate risk much clearer than when you're just like, I can't see any other way, I guess, and everybody else is borrowing money. I get that. But you talk about taking a dip in the economy. When that economy, you're going to wish that you had not taken on that debt.
Agreed. Yeah. And so here's one. I'm on the tools, but I want to get out and I want to sell and market my business, because I can't do both. I don't have time to do both. So I need to hire a site super, but I don't have the cash in the bank to do it. Like, what do you do?
Okay, so here's how you got to look at that. Is if you are the owner of the business and you have the ability to go out and generate revenue, you have to think of it. You have the ability to literally create money out of thin air, because you're going to go talk to a person and you're going to tell them something, and then eventually they're going to give you some money. So and not many people have the ability to do that. So if you can sell a job, then you got to take a look at that, the amount of money that would generate to your business. And let's say you're a remodeling contractor, for example, and it takes 2 hours to sell a job, meaning by the time you talk to somebody on the phone, you go out there, you talk to them, you get the proposal signed, and that job will net, I don't know,